The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Bitches. Witches, well, they're all the same sometimes. But trust me, this is a retail coven you want nothing to do with as Amber and Scott discuss forbidden fruit. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Well, this was a fruit salad that got left out a couple days too long.
That is true. It was pretty much rotten to the core.
Yeah, no. this one got real dark, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about forbidden fruits. And I don't know about you, Scott, but within the first couple of minutes of this movie, I started having vibes that were kind of like Heathers. And as I said this, I don't think you've seen Heathers, have you?
No.
Yeah. I don't know. It just kind of had this dark comedy kind of feel to it. And that's immediately what I thought of.
Is Heathers a dark comedy?
Yeah. It's from last century. It's from the previous century with Shannon Doherty and Christian Slater. And there's some other folks in there as well. I think if
it's got Christian Slater.
Yeah. Anyway, so what our story is about is these three girls who work at a fashion store at the mall.
Was it before Eden? Or
Free
Eden.
Free Eden. And each of them has a fruit name. So we have Apple, who is the head of the clique. We have Cherry, and we have Fig. And a new girl shows up, and her name's Pumpkin. And these girls get into all kinds of shenanigans.
Actually, this movie, initially, before we entered the fourth person, actually kind of reminded me of Scream Queens.
Yeah, where you have in that movie,
show.
Chantel or Chanel. Her name was Chanel, yeah. And that was played by Emma Roberts beautifully, of kind of where you just have this mean girls queen where everyone acquiesces to whatever they want and falls in line.
They were literally called the Chanels.
Yes, she was Chanel, and there was Chanel 1,
and
Chanel
then number
2,
5,
Chanel 5.
The thing I remember about number 5 is that she has teeth for a vagina. That's all I know.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
Yeah, that was a thing.
But
that was a great show.
She was Cherry.
Yeah, figuratively, absolutely. Yeah, Glenn Powell was in Scream Queens, which was on Fox, which was a Ryan Murphy show, and now he is big in all the movies, but in Scream Queens, he had a great character, but he was an unknown back then.
I might need to rewatch that. Yeah, because I don't remember him being in it.
Yeah, he was Chanel's boyfriend, who played golf.
Chanel... original?
Yeah,
Chanel?
she's Chanel. Everybody else has a number, but she was Chanel.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, back on track. So we have Apple, who pretty much leads this group of girls. And I would say initially I thought maybe they were supposed to be high school, but they're out of school, probably like 22-ish or early 20s or so.
Yeah, because Fig was talking about grad school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, 22-ish seems about right.
Yeah, and essentially wrapping this all up, again, spoilers, folks, is this new girl comes, infiltrates the group.
But it's interesting because the new girl was invited in, and she, from that classic, looked like she was there with the pretzel place with the little paper hat on her head.
Well, she worked at the place that wasn't the cool place. So they worked at Free Eden, and they went to the food court, and people just gave them food because they were the cool clique. And
I'm just saying she looked very plain. Now, I know a lot of things like Mean Girls can start with that, but in this case, she didn't have to get pretty
to be accepted.
Accepted.
Yeah, she worked at, I think, like Salty Sister Pretzels or something, and that was not the cool place to work. And I don't know about you, but when I went to high school, there were the cool places to work, and there were the not cool places to work. And in my day, gonna date myself, and also probably gonna regionalize myself, if you worked at J. Jacobs, ooh, you had a cool job.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what the cool jobs were. For me, I guess I wasn't in the clique that knew what cool jobs were.
You were so far removed you didn't even know what that was?
I mean, I will say when I got to be the box office attendant at the movie theater at the mall.
I would think you'd be pretty popular. I bet a lot of people would try to be friendly with you to try and get to movies for free.
Yup.
Yeah, that's always
Because
always the thing.
I actually wasn't supposed to have the power, but realistically, I had the power.
Yeah, you work there, you can get away with stuff. So this pumpkin, they have an opening at the store, and she's invited to come in even though she is the pretzel girl. One of the other girls helps her. Fig helps her to kind of endear herself to Apple, who's the head of the group. And as Pumpkin gets in, she starts to see that Apple has a lot of control over these young women. And it's not just all like, oh, we're cool girls that are all happy and cliquey and, you know, we've got our backs, even though they were under this whole like women lifting up women kind of umbrella. But you start to realize Apple really has all these girls under her thumb. So
yes, that is putting it lightly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you do? Okay, knowing there's a bombshell at the end. So our what would you do's are a little bit tainted here because we know if we put ourselves in Pumpkin's shoes.
I can put myself in where we were in the movie.
Okay. Well, I guess if you were Pumpkin and you came in and then you started seeing like, ooh, gee, maybe this isn't all rosy, happy-go-lucky as I thought it was.
Pumpkin initially was giving naive. I think that's how the kids say it, is giving. I'm trying to brush up on my Gen Z lingo.
Okay.
She's giving naive, but it didn't take too long to realize she wasn't nearly as naive as thought. And as a matter of fact, she is actually quite cunning.
Yeah. When I said earlier she infiltrated it, it's because she actually did have an ulterior motive, and we'll get there shortly. But as she gets in there, she starts to realize that Cherry is very much under Apple's thumb, and Cherry has succumbed to all of Apple's rules, but then trying to sneak out ways around it. Like, for example, Cherry cannot have sex on Wednesdays. Cherry has to write a journal. Cherry
Has to go to a therapist.
Well, I don't know if that was mandated by Apple.
Well,
but
either way, it's a good thing.
Apple supposedly helped Cherry get sober, so Cherry has a lot of faith in Apple.
Yeah, that's the problem. We never actually get a conclusion on that. Like, was she actually a drunk who she helped get sober, or did Apple just convince her that she had a drinking problem so she could solve it?
Yeah, because that's definitely how Apple is. So let's for the benefit of the doubt, let's say Apple really did help get Cherry sober. If you're Cherry, what would you do? Would you feel indebted to Apple? Would you follow these rules of you cannot have sex on Wednesdays?
Okay, that's a little weird. I feel like we were remiss in not noting the first thing that we saw in the movie.
Okay.
Which was when Apple was in her car and there was another guy in the truck next to him, and she kind of made a gesture like, pleasure yourself, dude. And he obliges, and he obliges, and he obliges.
In his car while she's in the car next to him.
And then it seems like when he's starting to get close, she takes her coffee and throws it in the window.
Yep.
There's nothing that stops an orgasm like scalding hot coffee.
Yeah, she didn't want him to come.
Yeah,
apparently that's what she said.
She definitely had men issues with men.
Okay, so back to Cherry. What would you do if you were Cherry and you were grateful to this person that has helped you, and then they have these specific rules and expectations of you?
I mean, here's the thing. If you're the one who's coming back from stuff, some stuff might seem weird to you, like don't have sex on Wednesdays. And mind you, that one is weird. But
that one's actually weirder than don't have sex.
Yeah. So it was kind of a trust the process.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Situation. And she's like, okay, I've gotten what I've gotten so far. I'm going to trust this process.
So what would you do? Would you trust the process? You don't seem like a trust the process guy.
Well, I'm also not coming off of rehab. Coming off of rehab, I could see it. I could see me doing that way if I really was. Normal Scott? Hell no.
So here's the interesting thing. When we talk about the control that Apple had over these young women, one of her rules that applied to everybody is if there's a guy in your life, you're only allowed to communicate with him with emojis. You're not allowed to actually text actual words back and forth with them.
Well, I mean, realistically, that's, I think, mostly designed to shut down
Connection.
those conversations and those connections.
Yeah.
And it kind of does, except they don't necessarily follow the rules when Apple's not around. So,
Yeah, Fig eventually meets a guy she really likes.
and that dude was talking emoji to her IRL.
Yeah, he was trying to follow the rules, and she was like, no, it's okay. Nobody's around.
We're good.
So as we get further into the film, we really realize this is a toxic group, and Apple likes to, I mean, they don't call it a coven, but Apple likes to dabble in very sloppy, amateurish witchcraft.
I mean, listen, if she's calling themselves witches, then that is a coven. That is what a coven is.
Yeah, she doesn't do it a lot, but they definitely have some ceremonies meant to put hexes on people. And one of them is a prior member of this group of women whose name was Pickle. Now, come on. Come on.
Who was the first one that got... There was somebody who got cursed before, wasn't it? Or was it Pickle?
Pickle.
Pickle was the first one?
Yeah. So Pickle found a boyfriend. They're not really supposed to have boyfriends. And she found a boyfriend who she started caring about and prioritizing.
Oh, no. The first one was her boyfriend is who actually got cursed. Because, see, when they curse, they don't actually say the name of who's cursed. They say who deserves it.
Okay, I thought you meant one of the girls. Anyway.
I mean, the second curse hit Pickle.
Well, it was one hex.
No, they did one back when Pickle was part of the group.
Yeah.
And that hit her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then later, when she's no longer in the group, they did a hex, and that one hit Pickle.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you do if you're in this group of girls that's starting to fall apart and they're starting to have conflict here? And in this case, we saw Fig, who really didn't want to do this hex, and then also Cherry, who was getting leery about this hex because the first time they did it, Pickle's boyfriend fell into a coma and went to a psych ward, and Pickle kind of lost it. So they've seen what one of their hexes can do, and now Apple wants them to do it again.
Which, in retrospect, we learn after the credits start that they talk about whether or not he had been poisoned. He was poisoned, he was poisoned. I'm going to leave that at that for now.
What do you mean he was poisoned?
Pickle's boyfriend was poisoned.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't random.
What do you mean he was poisoned?
He was poisoned.
Okay.
They said, I don't want to give away too much.
Well, that's what we do. That's why you put a thing at the front of the episode
Okay,
that says we spoil things.
Well,
Folks, we spoil things.
Apple poisoned him.
Okay.
Because they said at the end that she was wanted for 2 poisonings.
Oh, okay.
And they did mention that some people say he got poisoned.
Okay.
Well, some people say that because I did it.
Okay. Well, regardless, back to where we were. So Fig definitely doesn't want to do a hex again, and Cherry is getting very uncomfortable with this. What would you do if you were these other 2 girls who have been in this clique, who participated in a hex before and saw something go terribly south? Which actually, I guess it didn't go south. I guess it went as it's supposed to. I mean, a hex is supposed to be a bad thing. It's not a you win $1 million kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So do you speak up like Fig finally did, but then she went along? So what do you do?
It also matters whether or not you believe in it.
Well, I think they did because they saw something bad happen to someone that was adjacent to their group.
I mean, yes, but that could also be just coincidental.
It didn't sound like they thought it was coincidental.
Well, if it were me, I'd be like, yeah, so hexes don't really exist. I'll play along because I'm not actually doing anything. So I play along. I'm fine with it, like whatever. Like if I'm still trying to fit in at that point.
But are you? Because there's conflict at that point. There is definitely some issues cropping up with this group of women. And let's get real. This isn't high school. If this was, I think their age matters a lot here. If it's high school and you are in with the cool clique, oh yeah, you will hang on to that and do what you need to do to stay in that status of that group. But if you're in your early 20s or so, grow the heck up. Like you
But
can't.
it was still the cool job.
It was, and they were the cool girls, but like I would like to think at that age you would have a little bit more independent thinking to realize, like, okay, this was fun for a while, but this is kind of messed up, and I need to step back or speak up or something, because this is not good, and I'm not in high school anymore.
I don't know. If you're getting suspicious at that point, you stay in to basically play undercover.
Well, that's assuming someone, wants to do that. But I
mean, by that point, there was definitely an emotional investment by everyone.
What would you do at that point if I saw a hex? I'm using air quotes around a hex here. Basically, take Pickle's boyfriend, stick him in a coma, and then stick him in a psych ward, and then basically make Pickle some sort of kind of zoned out weirdo. I wouldn't want to touch that, even if whether I believed in it or not. I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm out here. Because then you realize that, okay, this is not something I want to touch.
I just want to remind you that this is a group led by a person who threw coffee on someone's dick and then went in and told people that she did it. So it's not like she did it as a silent thing. They know who Apple is.
Oh, yeah, and that's why they're frightened of her. I mean, it eventually comes to, yeah, we're all in this together and lifting up women. But as we get deeper into the film, we definitely realize that there is some discomfort with the level of control that Apple has.
Yeah.
And maybe that didn't exist early on. Maybe they were okay with it. Maybe it just came over time. And even came with Pumpkin asking questions of like, are you okay that she tells you you can do this and you can't do that?
Well, see, that's the thing. Cherry and Pumpkin did not get along at first, pretty much because Cherry didn't like Pumpkin. She thought Pumpkin was taking over her spot in the group. So she was really trying to throw Pumpkin off of this whole thing. And it became very clear very fast that was not going to happen.
I'm only laughing because Pumpkin, just using the word pumpkin in a sentence here.
Yeah, but Pumpkin wasn't dumb. Pumpkin saw what was going on, and she knew. So then she was like, "Oh, you want to play this game? Fine. I'll get you to turn against her."
Yeah. Pumpkin starts getting a little bit of dirt on other people when she sees Fig breaking the rules and having a boyfriend, and when she sees Cherry breaking the rules and having sex on Wednesdays, and then she's got a little dirt on them that, ironically, even though she criticizes Apple for having control over them, then she kind of leverages that control to a certain degree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we learned that Pumpkin may be better than Apple, but not by a lot. She has a bit of a slightly sinister side. Not as bad as Apple, but she can manipulate people.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't refer to it as sinister, but yeah, she's definitely can be manipulative. So let's go back to another what would you do? So part of how these women interact with each other is they have time upstairs, and part of their witchcraftery is called, paradise. We're going to go to paradise. So when they're upstairs and they're doing their little cult clubby thing, one of the things is that they send each other to confession, and confession is a dressing room in the store.
And you were confessing to Marilyn Monroe.
And in the mirror is Marilyn Monroe, because Apple worships Marilyn Monroe, and she was killed by the government and JFK.
I mean,
and
it makes sense that would be who she would look up to, 100%.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, Marilyn Monroe was a bit of a rebel. You're not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah, she definitely alludes to that.
Like, definitely the biggest one to date at that point. And so, very much, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't do. And then she dies. Whether or not it was actually the government, you know what? Honestly, if you told me it was, I'd believe you.
So here's a fun fact about Marilyn Monroe. It has nothing to do with our movie here today. Did you know that as of the time of the taping of this episode, that they are trying to turn Marilyn Monroe's house here in Los Angeles into a historical building, a historical place, But the people living there don't want that because that means that they have to maintain certain things to maintain the integrity of it, meaning that they couldn't remodel, they couldn't expand, they couldn't add on. They are restricted to maintain certain things at that house. So they are fighting against the historic declaration of that property.
I get it. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass for the homeowners.
Yeah. Anyway, so just thought that seemed relevant. So what would you do if now part of this thing is you have to go to confession and you have to confess to Marilyn Monroe? Is this starting to feel a little weird, or are we embracing the fun of it?
We're embracing the fun of it. I mean, I'm probably not confessing my deepest, darkest to Marilyn. I'm not going to confess anything that's going to, be used as blackmail.
Yeah, I think I would feel the same way. As I would feel like, okay, I'll go along with this and I'll embrace the silliness of it, but my nature is not to give anyone some dirt, because I don't know. My first thought is that mirror a two-way mirror?
Forgive me, Marilyn, for I have sinned. It was the 10th of September, and I wore white.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's the type of stuff I would do.
That is a fashion sin. Definitely don't want to go there. So ultimately, this film culminates with us finding out that Pumpkin is actually Apple's half-sister.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
Pumpkin didn't know that, right?
No, she did. That's why she showed up there to begin with. She did know that. That's why she kept calling her mom, and that's why she kept saying, yeah, I haven't gotten enough for the other two girls. She 100% went there to try to get in with Apple. Oh. Absolutely. So
I guess...
So the point we haven't mentioned on this episode, however, though, is that we know Apple's dad died. And we also know that Cherry's family died in a fire. And what we eventually find out is Apple killed her dad. Okay, so that's important. So when we find out that...
Pumpkin's dead. Pumpkin's dad was dead, too.
Why are you talking like you don't know what the film happened in the film?
You said Cherry.
Yeah, Cherry's family died in a fire, and Apple's dad died, and we find out that Apple actually killed her dad.
Yeah, well, Pumpkin's dad was dead, and that's one of the first things they actually bonded over.
Yeah. Well, it's the same guy.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, well, I'm not telling you. I'm telling them in case they haven't heard it. It's the same guy. So, yes, Pumpkin, absolutely. Do you think that was a coincidence? What do you mean? Pumpkin didn't know. Of course she knew. That's why she was there.
Well, Apple knew. That's why, in retrospect, you could be like, oh, that's why we brought her into this group. Because let's keep her close.
Well, but Apple had nothing to do with that. It was actually Fig who brought Pumpkin into the group. But anyway, so what would you do when you find out you have a half-sister? Because apparently Apple knew about Pumpkin when she was young, but Pumpkin never knew about Apple because it sounded like Apple's family was neglected and didn't have basic necessities, and it sounded like Pumpkin's family had a great relationship with...
You just said that Pumpkin knew about Apple. And now you're saying that Pumpkin didn't...
No, Scott. What I said is growing up, Pumpkin didn't know about Apple. She said that in the fountain. But when she went to the mall to try to infiltrate the girls, she didn't. She found out what is she? She had how many years to find that out? She knew when she came to infiltrate the girls. She didn't know when she was growing up, and she loved her dad. She didn't know her dad had another family, that it wasn't even a mistress, that Apple's dad and Pumpkin's dad, the same dad, was married to both of the women.
Save that thought, because we need to pay the bills here. So we will be right back after this message.
Overwhelmed by the technical side of podcasting? Duncast makes creating a professional-sounding podcast incredibly simple.
I was terrified of the technical side of podcasting. Duncast made it so simple that I launched my first episode in under 30 minutes.
Just record, and our patent-pending AI tools handle the rest, giving you studio-quality sound at a fraction of the time and cost. We also distribute your show to all major platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so all you have to worry about is being the creator.
If you want it done fast, use Duncast. Visit Duncast.com to start your free, no credit card required trial today.
And we are back.
So anyway, anyway, yeah, of course, she knew. She knew, and that's why she showed up at the mall. That's why she got in. That's why she started asking questions, is she was trying to find out if Apple indeed killed her dad, because she loved her dad. And she does find that out because Cherry puts it all out there and saying, yeah, Apple killed her dad.
Yeah, that detective, what was her name? It was Barbie. It wasn't Barbie, but it was Barbie.
Sandra?
No.
Oh, the doll. You're
Yeah.
talking about the doll. Fill in the blanks here. Folks don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they got her, gave a present, and it was this detective Barbie doll because...
Okay, Pumpkin gave the
Pumpkin-
group
yes.
a present, or mostly Apple.
Yeah, but it was really just a hidden camera.
Yeah.
And that's what it was used for. That thing sat in confessional. It sat in several places.
Okay. Where are you going with that?
I mean, she was
trying to find out if this girl killed her dad. Of course she used cameras and all kinds of other tactics.
Okay, continue.
I don't have anything to continue. I mean, what would you do if you were Pumpkin and you found out that you had a half sister somewhere and you think there's a chance she killed your dad? I mean, if it were me, I can say that it's entirely possible I would do something similar to Pumpkin. Like, look into it. If it's one thing to know, okay, you have a half sister out there, but if you think that half sister killed your dad, who you adored, yeah, I can understand wanting to get some intel. And how better to get some intel than go directly to this girl and her group of friends?
Yeah. Yeah, this was kind of a weird situation where I think you actually can relate to it some, where the dad was like there a little bit for the family, only for a little bit, and then bolts and finds more happiness with the next family, and you feel awful because why wasn't I enough for you to...
Oh, I can't relate to that at all. I don't feel awful about anything. I mean, I would never... you're speaking for me, and I would never feel like I'm not enough. I'm plenty.
Well,
I'm always enough.
I mean, not at this age, obviously, but...
Even at that age, you clearly don't know me. That thought has never crossed my mind.
Okay.
So, anyway, moving on from airing my family laundry here. So, what would you do if you found this? I would go undercover like Pumpkin. Very, very, very probably. What would you do?
I don't know. I'd probably just go to the police. But...
Oh, you know what? And if she had done that, she probably would have gotten somewhere, because it turns out that
the manager...
Apple's already on the radar of law enforcement.
Yeah, the manager of the store that kind of came in out of nowhere was an undercover cop.
Yeah.
Who was working that, so...
So at the end of the day, all of the fruits die gruesome deaths, except for Apple, who moves on.
Oh, yeah.
To another free Eden store in another state.
Yeah, the grinding up in the escalator and the piece of glass.
Yeah.
Actually splitting Fig in half. And
yeah, there's all kinds of gruesome stuff there.
And then, for Pumpkin, she just got choked out. So, I mean, the first two weren't homicides. They were... and that's the other thing, too.
Well, that's what a hex will get you. You don't need a homicide if you got a hex.
Before you even get to this, you've got Cherry, who takes a cleaver that got brought in for part of this ritual and puts it in Kit's boyfriend's cheek.
Who's Kit?
Or Fig. Fig's boyfriend's cheek.
Yeah.
That's kind of what really, really kicked all of this off and made it a what the hell is going on situation.
Well, it's because Apple set up a scenario where they needed to have a sacrifice, and she was looking at Cherry's cat, Shirley Temple. So in a bold move, Cherry decided to take out Norman, who was Fig's boyfriend, with the cleaver in the face. Yeah. So unfortunately, and by no surprise, Norman apparently broke up with Fig after that.
Yeah.
What would you do if someone put a cleaver in your face? I would break up with them too.
Well, I mean, Fig didn't put the cleaver in her face.
Well,
Cherry did.
I know that. But I'm
it's
still
because
saying
of-
if you're in an environment where your friends are putting cleavers in my
Yes.
face, I'm going to break up with you by association.
Yes, for sure. They also set this thing up to possibly have a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely seems like there might be one day, but...
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is Scott reminding you, don't put cleavers in people's face.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.